Rachel, we've both been in relationships before.
Yes.
And you know how, sometimes those relationships come to an end for one reason or another. And you have the glory days, And then you go down a couple
The honeymoon phase?
But you have those glory days, you're in there together. And then you go down a couple of years, you break up, and then a couple of years later, you go, man, maybe I missed that person. Maybe I should have gone back to them. Maybe
I would like to state on the record that if I did that, you would punch me in the face.
Yeah. However, that's exactly what the Tampa Bay Lightning did this week. A rare before the Stanley Cup is being awarded trade.
So he's not allowed to play.
No,
this season anymore.
He's not eligible for the Stanley Cup final or at least the Eastern Conference final, which the Tampa Bay Lightning are definitely in right now.
Yeah.
No, it's Ryan McDonough is being reacquired by the Tampa Bay Lightning for a 2025 second rounder and a 2024 seventh. He also has a fourth round pick attached to him. But it's an interesting trade, in my opinion.
Okay.
Because it's like getting back together with your ex, but also I remember being in Tampa after the Cup, because the Ryan McDonough got traded basically right after the
parade
lost.
Barely.
Well, they lost.
No, but what I'm saying is the Stanley Cup parade for the other Colorado had barely happened.
I know.
Before he was traded.
I think I was either literally flying home from Tampa because Colorado won in Tampa in 2022.
Yeah.
Or I just landed and I was looking for something to watch, literally in the Uber home or the day after. And it was this trade. It was the press conference or whatever of Julien Brisebois talking about trading Ryan McDonough. He looked like he wanted to kill himself.
Yeah, it was exit day.
By the way, there's a kill yourself reference in the first 2 minutes, which I know Connor really loves. He chastised us for not doing, so there you go again. But he was broken up about the fact that he had to trade Ryan McDonough.
So I was listening to 32 Thoughts, and this is something I had heard as well, so I was kind of okay, now that Elliot has said it, I'm all right, my source is good. Ryan McDonough went to Barry Trotz and basically was I understand if you need to trade me, but please try and get me back to Tampa if possible, because my family loves it there. I would really like to be there.
They loved him.
And they loved him. And so Barry Trotz basically called up Julien Brisebois and was like, hey, give me something reasonable and I'll make this trade happen. Mm-hmm. And kudos to Julien Brisebois. I think that's reasonable. And Ryan McDonough gets it. Barry Trotz does right by a player, which I think
that goes a long way.
It goes a long way.
It went along with Kyle Dubas. It all worked out for him. He did right. He did right by everybody.
Yeah, I just think I think veterans are a bit of a different story in that sense. And I'm just happy to see everyone's getting what they want here. I think it's ended up being pretty tidy business for Nashville, considering they didn't give up a ton in the first place. Now they're even getting assets back, so it's kind of they basically laundered Ryan McDonough.
They did, yeah. They
basically laundered him.
Ryan McDonough. And the thing is he was good this year. He was really good.
Yeah.
He struggled a bit the year before. I think it honestly was the fact that he was so ingrained in Tampa. I know that players get traded after being at places for a long time all the time, but he was that organization loved.
He was used to life there, which is why I think in the same way
he has a young family.
Steven Stamkos,
he's not going anywhere.
It just doesn't make sense for him to go anywhere.
It would be shocking, but I really like this trade for Tampa because basically the rationale, and this is again something Elliot Friedman said, was that Tampa wanted they recognized that they needed a top 4 defenseman.
Right. And I saw so many people being the Leafs could have made that trade. It's actually no, because he only wanted to go to Tampa.
Yeah, there's a big difference.
Relevant.
There's a big difference between Toronto, Ontario, Canada, and
Tampa Bay, Florida, United
States. Especially because I believe McDonough's American.
Yes.
So, yeah,
no, if he says, I want to go to Tampa.
Yeah, so it's not we're going to send you to Toronto.
The only similarity between Tampa and Toronto is that they both start with a T.
And they wear the exact same jersey. That's it, though. That's it. But but I love this trade because Tampa, they were okay, we need a top 4 defenseman. Clearly that was a huge issue throughout the season, especially after we lost Mikhail Sergachev. and he was playing at like 2% battery in the playoffs because he broke his femur like 70 days ago, and he's out on the ice for an elimination game or tibia, whatever. Yeah. And they're like, okay, we can go out, but anyone in the free agent market is either going to be Chris Tanev and 35 years old, and McDonough is up there,
or Nikita Zadorov. He's the only like good defenseman under 30.
And they're all going to get term.
Oh,
and they didn't want term.
Yeah.
Because they recognize they might only have a couple, like they might only have 2-3 years left on their window. So they're like, fine, we'll give up a 2nd round pick in next year's draft, and a 7th. Who gives a shit? And we'll reacquire a legit top 4 defenseman in Ryan McDonough, who makes $6.75 million. So it's all right. It's a good amount, but the cap's going up, so it's fine. But he only has 2 years left on his deal, and he knows us. We know him. He loves us. We love him. He knows our system. I think it's great.
So speaking of trades,
yes,
and acquiring defensemen, I've heard a lot of podcasts and I've seen a lot of nonsense on Twitter, and I realized that I realized correctly that I didn't think people knew how signing bonuses work on July 1st.
No, they don't.
So I'm going to explain this as it pertains to one named Mitchell Marner. Mm-hmm. So he is due a mammoth signing bonus on July 1st.
Yeah.
And a lot of the talk has been no trade can happen until July 2nd because the bonus has to be paid July 1st.
Well, it's not true. It's just the team is responsible for it.
That is right. So a trade to...
Like if you want to... It doesn't mean it can't happen. It's just like the team that he gets traded to has to pay that signing bonus.
Right. But a lot of it was like, okay, well, teams aren't going to want to do that. It's a more valuable asset on, quote, July 2nd.
Yes.
That is not true.
Okay.
So, how signing bonuses work. For the purposes of the league, 5 p.m. to 5 p.m. is the day. Mm-hmm. So, all signing bonuses have to be paid prior to 5 p.m. on July 1st. Any trade that is made after 5 p.m. on any day is considered a next day trade. So like when you're during the regular season, during the playoffs, every day you have to submit your roster at 5 p.m.
Yeah, so on June 30th,
at 5 p.m.
At 5:01 p.m. or whatever.
The roster, it's technically for
it's
league
technically
business,
July 1st.
It's July 1st. Okay. So that means there's all this. I'm seeing a lot of, oh, well, if they can't pay the bonus till July 1st, then they're not going to be able to be in on free agency, and that's when a lot of business gets done. Dangle was talking about it, like a bunch of other people were talking. Incorrect. And I don't...
You hear that, Steve? You're fucking wrong, bro.
I don't think a lot of people realize this because it's not really explained very well. No, it's not.
How would anyone know this?
So what happens is...
How many other people, Rachel, listen to this podcast, do you think have worked in a front office like you have? No one would know this. So I don't blame you for not knowing.
Yeah, this is a very intricate, weird thing to know.
Yeah.
And so how it works is for July 1st, the Leafs can opt to pay, let's say, they have a trade that's agreed to, right? And they want to be in the pot at 12:01 to be able to sign deals. They can pay Marner's signing bonus at 8 a.m. They can pay everyone's signing bonus at 8 a.m. They can have the trade executed at 10 a.m.
Yeah.
On that trade call.
Yeah, okay.
There will be a question that is not usually asked, that is asked, which is, has the signing bonus been paid, or does it transfer to the other team? Because if the signing bonus is not paid, then the acquiring team would have until 5 p.m. that day to pay his bonus.
Yeah.
So, if the Leafs pay the bonus at 8 a.m., the trade call happens at 10. Marner, his bonus is paid, and they have all that cap space, and what time does free agency start? Noon. So, there is a scenario...
I was racking my brain. I was like, wait
where
a second. Yeah.
The Leafs could... It doesn't have to just be Marner. It could be
anybody.
Anyone.
If
their bonus is paid, they can be traded, and then that's it. It's not you have to wait a day.
And their bonus, like, let's be real. The Toronto Maple Leafs, like Maple Leaf Sports Entertainment,
they're going to pay that bonus at 12:01 a.m.
Yeah.
That's when the money hits your account.
So that bonus, they can pay it at 12:01 or whatever, but that bonus will hit his bank account or whatever
on that day
Yeah.
prior to him being traded.
Exactly.
And then you tell the league, yes, Toronto has paid the bonus. Then it's traded. All that cap space is opened up, and off you go. You're allowed to sign and do whatever you want on July 1st. The other thing is you have to pay it by 5 p.m. It's not the Arizona Coyotes not paying properly. I highly doubt that's going to be an issue this year because
they are not. They don't exist as a franchise right now.
Yeah, and we're going to throw this picture up on our socials. I was sent a photo of how Alex Morello Jr. parks his car every day at work. He takes up 4 parking spots. So I thought that was kind of funny. You can look for that on our socials. But I wanted to get that out there about Marner and about, generally speaking, other players, because that is a scenario that we could see play out.
Yeah.
Right? That doesn't mean Marner's going to agree to it, but it is entirely possible.
Mm-hmm. It matters with Marner. Look, it could matter. John Tavares is owed
with Tavares.
Is owed a bonus, a sizable one. I think it's like $7 million or something.
Yep.
On July 1st. That gets paid 4:59 p.m. on June 30th.
No, you can't. It can't pay it on June 30th. Has to be in the league day. It has to be.
Oh, sorry. So that gets paid 5:01 then.
Yep.
June 30th. It's technically considered paid on July 1st when it's due. They basically get paid the 5 p.m. the day before.
Right.
Yeah. So
but
that's
usually
awesome.
what happens is they're paid at 12:01.
Yeah.
That's how, at least historically, MLSE has done it.
Yes, because they're a real company and they have their payroll probably set to 12:01 to automatically send it out.
Right. So that is something that is a potential possibility, and I wanted to get that out there because it's something that's very nuanced and complex. And so let's say there's another scenario. Let's say the Leafs pay Marner signing bonus and they make a trade. It doesn't matter with who. And the player they acquire is also due a signing bonus. The Leafs, in order to make the deal more valuable, could offer to pay both signing bonuses, because what they would do is they would pay Marner's signing bonus and then they would trade him, and the team that's trading whatever asset back could say, we have not paid the signing bonus yet. Toronto is paying the signing bonus. So it is entirely possible. Let's say it's Shea Theodore. I'm not sure what a signing bonus structure is.
Okay.
But the Leafs could pay his signing bonus.
I can look that up if you want.
And it's really
it
not
doesn't
relevant.
matter, yeah.
And then they could say, we're also going to pay Theodore's. And in doing so, they could say, okay, well, if we're on the hook for both signing bonuses, you're giving us either a better asset or an extra asset.
That's how they reclaim some form of leverage in this.
Exactly. Yeah. And so I just wanted to kind of explain that, because there is a scenario where a trade could happen on July 1st.
Absolutely.
And the Leafs would end up paying both bonuses.
Yeah. However, for them to do that, like you said, they would have to get something tantalizing to them back. Now,
now Shea Theodore is a
definitely
tantalizing piece, and I think I've heard a lot of people...
But it's not worth sending Marner over there.
I've heard a lot of people be like, oh, like, that's not enough. Excuse me. Having Shea Theodore and the cap space to sign another good defenseman is a win. Thank you.
Marner for Theodore 1-for-1. I'm not a huge fan of that. Like, I love Shea Theodore.
Okay, but what if it's Marner for Shea Theodore and the money to sign Brett Pesce? Then you're getting Theodore and Pesce for Mitch Marner, which completely balances out your roster.
Yeah. However, I would like it to be Shea Theodore and a first, or Shea Theodore
they don't have that, so.
And a second, or Shea Theodore and a prospect that's deep. Like, you gotta tack something on.
I think a lot of people don't realize how good Shea Theodore is.
He's fantastic. He's fantastic. But it's also like this is a. I can't believe I'm going to bat for Mitch Marner here. This is a 90-point Selke nominated.
That's
winger.
Great. What's harder to find? Top pairing defensemen or right wingers? I'm gonna throw something at you if you say top pairing or if you say right wingers.
Be careful.
I'm so tired of the cap space, and people are like, "Oh, I have to get more." No, you're getting cap space. That is the most valuable asset in the National Hockey League right now, and the fact that the Leafs are able to leverage the unlimited funds that they have to make it so is a huge thing. Because even if it isn't Brett Pesce, what if it's Brady Shea?
Hold on, Rachel. I'm getting a call. Hello?
Is it Rocket Security?
Rocket Security? Oh no, Rachel's the one that said that. Please direct your messages towards her. Okay, thank you. I love you too. Okay, bye-bye. Sorry, I don't like to pick up calls in the middle of the podcast, but
that's a very important.
It was an important one because this person's very important.
But yeah, so I guess what I'm saying is there is a scenario where the Leafs could still use their financial might to their advantage, and that's kind of how things play out behind the scenes. It's very nuanced, but I felt like it was worth.
I have another.
Bringing up.
It was. I have something, and I'm gonna flip our prep because of this to bring this in. So we're gonna talk about Sheldon Keefe getting hired.
Okay.
And Craig Berube, but Sheldon Keefe first. Now, Sheldon Keefe's deal with the Devils is a 4-year deal.
Correct.
To do that, the Devils basically ripped up the extension, the 2-year extension with the Leafs that was set to kick in next season.
Correct.
Now, MLSE, as we've said, has a lot of money. They do.
Yes, because they're owned by telecoms that charge $190 billion a month for
crazy.
cell phones.
I just got a new phone. Believe me, it's a lot. But
yeah, because Mike's phone sidebar,
yeah,
it has been so overused that the screen is burnt.
Yeah, so
it's not cracked, it's burnt.
It's an iPhone X. I've had it since 2018.
You had it pre-COVID.
I had 2 years pre-COVID.
That's like not even the same.
I was still in university.
Christ.
And
you had that phone when I met you.
Yeah, I did.
That phone is longer than our friendship.
It is. Yep. And so the side of my phone here, like this, as far as like you can see because I'm pulling it down up top, but right here doesn't work anymore. So I was trying to text Rachel today. I'm like, I got the prep done, but the P doesn't work. What's next to the P is O. So I tried to text her. I have the Oreo done.
And I like Oreos, so I would have expected Mike to show up with Oreos.
And then I would have handcuffed myself into a situation where I have to go out and buy Rachel Oreos, which is crazy.
Because I actually don't have any right now, which is kind of surprising.
That's a shame. However, what I'm thinking here is, okay, so MLSE obviously has a lot of money. However, they're very strict about they don't like to pay people not to work for them, basically.
Correct.
As any company really should be. And also, with Keith Pelly coming in...
Don't fire people then.
Yeah. They're setting a budget. Like this is because...
A budget?
Yeah, they're setting a budget. But as they always do, but still, this is like the Raptors suck right now. Planned, but they suck. So there's no playoff revenue there. Attendance is down.
TFC is actually cooking right now.
TFC is cooking right
Unexpectedly
now.
Cooking.
But they have sucked in recent years.
For 2 years. Yeah. And they have spent more money than you could possibly imagine.
The Marlies lose money. The Argos lose money. And then the Leafs, who are great moneymakers in the regular season, have now missed out once again on many more dates of basically like $4 million per home date in the playoffs.
That isn't subject to revenue sharing.
It isn't exactly. So they don't want it as much as we think the Leafs can just throw money at any problem, they likely don't want to, and they likely they probably
because
could.
Share prices matter.
Exactly. So, however, the Devils ripped up Sheldon Keefe's contract. So they don't have to pay a guy to not work for them for another 2 years.
And everyone on the MLSE board went, yay!
That money...
That was like $3.5 million a year.
I was going to say, yeah. So that's about $7 million.
Hey, out.
What is... I want to use... Because I know his bonus. What is John Tavares' bonus?
I think it's 7,125.
There you go. There's your money right there. So Keefe getting hired... has actually helped them because now they're in not that they have to be in a financial position, but now they are more inclined to pay out money to a player they're going to trade because they don't have to pay a coach that they signed for some reason it was inevitable that he was going to get fired.
They've stopped paying Mike Babcock and they've also gotten out of paying Sheldon Keefe.
And Jake Muzzin, Matt Murray, who else? Isn't
Kessel one up?
John Klingberg, and I believe Kessel's off the books now too. But there's a lot of money.
They're gonna go from paying Jake Muzzin like millions of dollars a year to like whatever his salary is in the front office, which is probably like $100,000 or so.
Yeah. Well, he's a scout. He's a professional scout.
Scouts make roughly $100,000 a year. Yeah.
So he's gonna live better than the rest of us. Slightly, better. Yeah. But anyway, I think that's very interesting. Because Keefe gets fired, gets hired, and it basically hands Toronto money to be able to pay out a signing bonus to a John Tavares or a Mitch Marner, and not have it hurt. They're much more inclined.
Theoretically, yeah.
Like hurt in the sense that
Yeah, let's
will
not
not hit
get it
their
twisted.
budget.
$7 million is
It's
a drop in the
couch
bucket to
change.
these people.
Like it's like the 7th guy down the bench on TFC. Like it's great. How much did they pay?
So they bought Lorenzo Insigne
Yeah.
a $30,000 carpet that his dog promptly peed on the next day
That's
and had
hilarious.
to buy him a new
but
carpet.
what was his like transfer fee or whatever it is? Like, what
so
was
Lorenzo
his
Insigne is paid $15 million US a year.
US.
Yeah. He is the highest. Oh no, other than the Raptors. So obviously the Raptors.
Oh,
salaries
everyone
are
on the Raptors.
different.
Literally,
But
it's
so
funny.
Federico Bernardeschi makes like 6. So yeah,
Like Thad Young made more than Austin Matthews. Thaddeus Young made more than Austin
Who the
Matthews. He was
that?
he was like a Raptors like a bench player.
that's not a real person then. Okay.
No, it is. He's a great player, like in his prime, but like he was like a veteran.
Did you see
Yeah.
the thing that came out yesterday that like NBA players and on this new TV deal, their Supermax contracts could pay them over $90 million a year,
So-
which is more than an entire NHL
Oh, yeah.
roster.
Like it's like Gary Bettman is a criminal. Like he's
Justin Trudeau chirped him
Yeah.
at the WNBA presser today.
Gary Bettman should
you know
be
how
thrown in
bad
prison.
you got to be getting chirped by the Prime Minister
Well,
of Canada?
also like however you feel about him, like Justin Trudeau has never had worse sort of like public sentiment around him
right
as
now,
it is right now.
and he got applause.
And so and if him insulting you gets him applause right now in this climate, it's bad. Also,
real bad guys.
like Luka Doncic, because he got named to an All NBA team, he is now eligible, I think, this summer to sign a 5-year,
Supermax.
$358 million
the Supermax deal.
Like, which is just like it's insane. And meanwhile, we're quibbling over
$7 million.
$7 million. It's crazy.
All right,
Anyway,
so let's talk about Sheldon Keefe.
so Sheldon Keefe gets hired by the Devils, 4-year deal. Look, we all know that Sheldon Keefe is at least objectively a good coach.
Correct.
He's got a 200.
His coaching impacts on HockeyViz, which is Micah McCurdy's site, is one of the things that stands out about him is when his team has the lead, they don't go into a shell and like retreat.
That
And
was
that's
apparent on the Marlies too.
Huge issue in New Jersey this year.
Well, it's funny because I covered the thing is with Sheldon Keefe, like I covered him from literally my first ever job in media was covering him.
And I worked with him.
Yeah, and you worked with him.
And I've worked in New Jersey, notably.
Yes. So there's a lot of impact here. But I literally covered him. We both almost graduated together. Covered him on the Marlies all the way up to the Leafs. And what was interesting is at the time when he was on the Marlies, their parent team, the Mike Babcock Toronto Maple Leafs, they would get up by a goal and they would stop playing.
Yeah.
They would stop shooting the puck. They would stop basically breaking out. Or breaking it into, they would dump and chase, or they would do the flip up in the air to the middle of the ice and just regroup. Meanwhile, Sheldon Keefe, you're up 5-0. These guys are killing each other on the ice to get the puck. They're playing almost like score effects are kicking in, and they're down by 1 with like a minute to go. And I remember asking him after a game, I think it was against like Bridgeport or something, just sort of being like, "What? Like you guys were up by like 5." And you never stopped. And he was like, yeah, well, the game's not over.
Habits.
Yeah, it's habits. But like, the game's not over. Anything can happen. Especially in the AHL, when you can blow like a 6-0 lead like that, because hockey's just crazy there. So I like Sheldon Keefe as a coach. Obviously, there's a lot of things that he did wrong towards the end on the Leafs. And we'll talk about that. But he's got a 212, 97, and 40 record.
That's pretty
over
damn
5
good.
years. That is incredible. Obviously, 5 straight playoff appearances. 3 straight 100-point finishes, including, I believe, the best in Leafs history.
Yep.
He can play. He can coach. But there are obviously flaws.
Every coach has flaws.
Yes.
I mean, I look at this and I go, Sheldon Keefe's strengths are he's really good at unlocking the potential of his young players.
Mm-hmm. He's really good with young players.
And New Jersey has a lot of those.
Yes, they do.
The problem is Sheldon is not a culture builder.
No.
And New Jersey needs that.
Definitely.
So I think the assistant coaching, similar to Toronto, and we'll get there, but the assistant coaches are going to be important because Sheldon Keefe is not a drill sergeant. We've talked about this.
Yeah.
But he's really good at unlocking young players. So I expect a lot of those I expect Alexander Holt specifically to benefit from this. Dawson Mercer, I think, is another one. Simon Nemec is going to get a lot of time next year. And so here's my concern is the Devils have young players that we'll say
need to be molded.
Yeah, on and off the ice. I think he's really good at unlocking the mold on the ice, not so good off of it. And so what I would say is I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of those young players have fantastic offensive seasons, but what you should look for is, can he get guys like Jack Hughes to buy in on the defensive side of the puck? Because Sheldon Keefe's defensive systems are really, really good. So if the Devils aren't good defensively next year, it isn't because Sheldon Keefe's systems aren't good. It's because his players aren't buying in. Because we saw in Toronto, when the best players buy in, the Leafs are one of the best defensive teams in the league.
Absolutely.
And so at that point, you can then say, okay, it's the players that are the issue here. My question would be, does Sheldon Keefe have the personality to get some of those stronger young personalities to buy in? That would be my main concern there, and I'm sure those conversations are going to be had between him and Fitzy. But I look at this and I say, I think he's the best choice to unlock some of the scoring potential.
Definitely.
But they need to surround him with guys who can get the young players on board. It's okay to have a personality, but like we said about the Leafs, crest on the front supersedes name on the back.
Now, here the thing is that
and that hasn't been happening.
So I was chatting with my pals the other day, and this news got announced, and I went, well, the Devils are just the Leafs but worse. So it worked out well, and they're like, what are you talking about? I'm like, well, they play bullshit Corsi perimeter hockey. They have no goaltending, and they have a sassy American center franchise face.
The difference being Austin Matthews is a much better.
Yes, but saying that, and on top of that, they have a talented sort of two-ish way Swedish winger locked up to a long term, Jesper Bratt. And then they have a guy who has worn 90 on his, like a number in the 90s on his jersey at some point in his professional or junior career, who might be making too much for too long. Timo Meier, Mitch Martin.
Yep.
So, however, the difference here is that when Sheldon Keefe walks into the Prudential Center or where whatever their practice facility is called, what is it?
RWJ Barnabas at the Prudential Center.
RWJ Barnabas at the Prudential Center. He will be walking into a building that houses the best defense core he has ever had at the NHL level. Dougie Hamilton, Jonas Siegenthaler, John Marino, Simon Nemec, one of the Hughes brothers. He's
going to have some work to do there because
definitely. But you look at the Leafs. We went through it.
Oh yes, much better. Not a debate.
And at any point, even in 2023, when they added Gustafsson, Shen, McCabe all at the same time, this is. However, so the thing about this too is that the Leafs, obviously they have Austin Matthews, Mitch Marner, William Nylander. Those are really good offensive players, but Sheldon Keefe was able to get incredible seasons out of guys like Michael Bunting, out of, stuff like that. The Leafs are the second highest team in the entire league during Keefe's 5-year tenure. They scored the second most goals. Yeah.
So I would expect New Jersey to
they will
have
be good
some level of high octane offense.
What Sheldon Keefe needs in New Jersey is he needs to because he will have say over, he will be the one hiring his assistant coaches.
Yes.
You don't give a coach a 4-year deal with a lot of money.
Right, but
go, all right, but we're going to pick
You're fooling yourself if you don't think
they're going to have say, he can't go out and be like, I'm going to hire my buddy Gary.
Yeah.
He works at the local high school. He obviously, but he's going to be like, I want this guy. Sheldon Keefe needs to hire the best power play mind there is. He needs to hire an offensive coordinator, basically. He's very good at even strength, getting everything together. But we've seen, especially in Toronto...
And that person also has to be a drill sergeant.
Yes. But we've seen in Toronto, it doesn't matter how much talent you have. The Leafs' top power play unit is Austin Matthews, William Nylander, Morgan Riley, Mitch Marner,
and
John Tavares.
It should be as good as the Oilers' power play.
Yes, it should be like legitimately clipping along at like 30%.
Correct.
At least. It was awful in the playoffs. It lost them 5%. The series. No, like you could say anything. You could say Samsonov wasn't as good.
No, it lost them the series. Full stop.
They score one other power play goal.
They win
that series. It was
literally one.
Literally, they score one power play goal.
You go 7% on the power play.
They win. So they need to hammer that down. But I'm very interested in seeing. Like, I'm worried that the Devils, who already play, like I said, bullshit perimeter Corsi hockey, are now getting a coach that likes to do that. And that's why, like you said, the assistant coaches are so important.
Right. I think more and more in today's NHL, the assistant coaches are important just because of all of the things that go into now being a coach. You're not just coaching by feel anymore. Like
matchups have never been more prevalent.
Yeah, matchups, analytics, video. Like, there's just so many other things now that your staff is so important. And I'll be interested to see what changes get made. But I'll be watching. I think I'll be able to tell probably pretty quickly if he's got the best players to buy in on the defensive side of the puck.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, I mean, like I said, his system's good. So if they don't buy in,
it's not his fault.
No, it's not going to be his fault. And knowing what I know about Fitzy, if that is what's happening, he'll march down there and clean some clogs.
But he didn't do that last year?
I don't think Lindy Ruff's defensive system was very good.
No, but yeah, it's true. But
you know what I'm saying? But now you have a guy who has an established proof that he has a good defensive system.
Yeah.
Like, you've seen it with your own eyes. So you know it works.
You know what's really funny? Like,
and I know what the system looks like too. So I'll be able to tell if they're playing it properly or not. That's the thing.
I've heard that Keefe's deal is in the $4 million range.
Correct.
And you know what I find really funny? It's about this. It's about this market that we live in, Rachel. That we operate in, because Sheldon Keefe and Kyle Dubas took so much shit during their times here from us, deservedly so. I think in certain areas, but I think Kyle
Dubas took a lot of undeserved.
Absolutely, shit. Kyle Dubas is a great hockey executive. Are there flaws? Yes. Does he love his guys way too much? What GM doesn't? However,
but like, people were talking about him as if like,
no, Kyle Dubas
was Mike Milbury, and I'm like, settle.
The Leafs should have made the Eastern Conference Final at least last year. That team fucking owned the having Ryan O'Reilly as your third line center. You get Jake McCabe for $2 million. You get Luke Shen for a playoff run. You're able to add Noel Acciari for basically nothing. That team should definitely have at least made the conference final. That was a great team building thing. It was just, it's between the years. However, where I'm going with this is, I find it so funny that they take so much shit during their time in Toronto. The second they get fired, they each get huge term deals with huge AAVs by other teams to run them, basically.
And it's, in Kyle's case,
Kyle Dubas has a 7-year deal in Pittsburgh.
It's also under FSG.
Yes.
And we're talking about like the ownership group that owns the Red Sox and Liverpool.
Yeah.
Like, these people know what they're doing.
Yeah.
And so if they think Kyle Dubas is good at his job, then odds are he's good at his job.
It's just funny. Like, it's all like Sheldon Keefe can't coach. Oh, and look, I had a big problem with a lot of the stuff that Sheldon Keefe did towards the end of the year.
Every coach has their flaws.
And every coach towards a certain point, I think it's time to move on. I thought it was time to move on last year from Sheldon Keefe. But, it happened. However, I just find it so funny that happens. It didn't, within 2 days, basically, both of these guys.
Oh, the Devils asked the Leafs for permission to speak to Sheldon Keefe within 24 hours.
Yeah.
Is what I was told.
Yeah, I heard that too. It's with the day, basically.
Yeah.
Sheldon Keefe is at his cottage just chilling. Meanwhile, the Devils are like, hey.
Yeah, and the press conference isn't until next Tuesday because he is away with his family.
Yeah, and deservedly so. This guy's got shell shock. He's,
Yeah, chill.
However, the one downside here is that, much like in Toronto, Sheldon Keefe has no goaltending right now.
I think that's going to change, though.
I think Jacob Markstrom is going to be a New Jersey Devil, but And you know what?
It's
and
the Squidward meme, like the you are a New Jersey Devil.
However, Jacob Marksham's old, and he's had some off years.
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
Who knows? Another coach that got hired is obviously Craig Berube, and we didn't record a podcast last week. Which,
by the way, we should probably address that.
Oh yeah,
we're 1 a week now until
free agency, or until after the cup is awarded.
Yeah.
Then we'll go back up to 2 a week for free agency and for the first stages there. And then once things die down, we're gonna take some weeks off throughout the summer while there. But for now, like until the cup is awarded, we're gonna go 1 a week. We'll obviously have more social content that's coming out to sort of make up for that. But just to give our little hearts a little break, because it's a lot of work.
And it's about to be behind the scenes. It's about to be an extraordinarily busy time for me. It's likely to be the busiest time of my life and the most serious time of my life. And so it's an adjustment that I think is going to be best for like the quality of the show.
It will, yeah.
And we're going to have more like fun content, which I feel like we've kind of missed out on. And so, yeah, anyway, we forgot to mention.
Yeah, sorry. But segueing into Craig Berube, hired by the Leafs. We talked about him on the last episode a bit in sort of a preemptive sense. Now that he is hired, 4-year deal as well, which is just too much. He's not. I will make a bet with you, listeners, that if Craig Berube coaches to the end of his deal, I will.
I'll be shocked. Give
you a firm handshake and a kiss on the lips. You know, like, but it's. I don't hate it. I know we talked about it. I know, but right now, and I guess this is just I'm so caveman brained at this point after what has happened. Even if Craig Berube goes in there and just like doesn't do anything but make sure that these guys at least are accountable and buy in, then that's all he needs to do right now. There's the rumor, and I've heard it, and I'm sure a lot of people have heard it, that Marc Savard is coming over to Toronto. Funnily enough, him and the Flames mutually parted ways today. Interesting. I think that's a good hire.
Marc Savard?
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Exactly. That's an offensive guy.
There's your systems guy that we talked about last episode.
I have never been more ready, at least, to give a coach a chance.
That's a totally fair assessment. Okay.
You know? Like, I'm not over here thinking that Craig Berube is in the John Cooper, Mike Sullivan, Rod Brindamore sort of upper echelon. However...
And he isn't.
And he definitely,
Let's be
very
isn't. Clear about that.
However, I think he is what this team needs right now.
Okay.
And if I get proven wrong, then I get proven wrong, and that's fine. But in my opinion, he is what the Toronto Maple Leafs, as they are currently constructed, at their current stage of this era, I think he is what they need right now. You don't seem to agree, but that's fine. We don't have to agree on everything.
It's not that I disagree per se.
Like, as we know, Rachel, I hate women. You know, like
Correct.
and so like we don't agree on that, but we're still doing this podcast here,
right?
With the knowledge that I'm a giant misogynist. So continue.
Carry on.
Yes.
Okay. It's not that I disagree.
Okay.
It's that I have significant reservations.
Okay. Please explain.
So, there is a way I've talking to people, other coaches, this kind of thing. If Toronto keeps the system that Sheldon Keefe implemented,
they won't. But okay.
Actually.
Oh, really?
Yes, because Craig Berube is not a systems guy. If Toronto keeps the system that Sheldon Keefe implemented, but adds the accountability that Craig Berube brings, what you're doing is drawing on the strength that the team already has, which is their systems, and adding the strength of the coach. So if you're making a soup, right?
Craig Berube is basically a great base, you know?
No.
Or he's a good garnish?
Yes.
Okay.
So if I'm making a tomato soup, and I already have the tomatoes,
he's good like parsley. And
he's good spices.
Yes.
Parsley. He makes sure that all of the spices work together properly.
Yeah, he'll yell at the entitled little bitch tomato whose security guards keep fucking DMing people.
He will say, Basil, get it together. Yeah. Or salt, do more,
or Salt's dad, shut the fuck up.
And
you know,
whatever the case may be. So I think if you're keeping the base, you're keeping the foundation of the soup, and now you bring in the guy whose job it is to bring it all together.
You got really mad when you said you're keeping the base.
You keep the fucking base, okay?
It scared me for a second.
I'm making a soup. We're keeping the base.
Yeah.
So I think if they do that, this could work.
Yeah, great.
Obviously, you bring in Mark Savard to tweak the goddamn power play because it is trash.
Mm-hmm.
But if you listen to what Colton Parayko said,
yes,
Craig Berube didn't really change much of Mike Yo's systems.
And that's Mike Yo
we're talking about Mike Yo.
Yeah.
Okay? I've worked with the man.
Yeah. Craig Berube accountability'd Mike Yo's system to a Stanley Cup.
Exactly. So
that's pretty goddamn good.
Sheldon Keefe systems, as somebody who's worked with both coaches, are miles ahead. I feel very comfortable saying that. So I think if that's the recipe, that is a recipe for a solid tomato soup. However, if Craig Berube comes in and says, I'm pouring out all of the work that you've done, and we're starting from scratch, but we're going to start with the spices. If you start making a soup with the spices,
you just have a bowl of like paprika and basil and thyme and bullshit. Like, you can't
it's
eat
not
that.
going to taste very good, and odds are you're going to burn all of those spices before you get your base in there, and then it's going to taste like shit anyways.
Yeah.
So what I'm sort of hoping for here is that Craig Berube says, all right, we got a good base here. I am going to now augment what is already established here and make sure that all of you work together so that this soup tastes good. Because right now, you keep feeding your fans a whole lot of tomato shit. So, that's kind of where I rest on that. And, I mean, I was really pleasantly surprised with his press conference. I liked what he said. Obviously, you have to, like, follow through on that. But I also know that the Leafs players that are still in town have been meeting with him. Yep. We
have video proof of that.
Meeting with
Did you see
other coaches.
Sorry, did you see the tweet of it was Nyes and Matthews having lunch with Dean Chenoth, but someone mistook. Oh yeah, it was Nyes and Matthews at the same restaurant that Berube was having.
Okay,
lunch.
We're not naming that restaurant though.
Because I don't even know what it is.
Okay,
but it
is a restaurant that specifically has a deal with like the Toronto sports scene, where it's like we'll make it so that the public doesn't bother you.
I literally don't know what it is. However, it was the funniest thing in the world that Dean Chenoth took Austin Matthews and Matthew Nyes out for lunch. I think like 2 days ago or something, and there was someone photographed them there, and someone was like, "Look, it's podcaster Adam Wilde having lunch with Austin Matthews and Matt." And I looked at it and I went, I would believe that if you look at Adam Wilde and Dean Chenoth, they look a lot alike.
Dean Chenoth is much older than Adam.
No, I know, but like I think he was clean shaven in the picture, and you look, they're just like two guys with big meaty white heads. Like they look, but it was the funniest thing ever.
But like, also use your brain.
No, because I believed it for a second. I looked at that tweet. I'm like, why the fuck is Adam having lunch with Nyes and Matthews? And I went, oh, it's the assistant coach. But that was hilarious. Anyway, yeah.
Okay, so yeah, basically, I think we're kind of in a scenario where there is a path to success here.
Absolutely.
But I've got to tell you, I have a ton of confidence in Craig Berube's ability to be a people manager and ability to get guys pulling on the same rope in the same direction and have guys fall in line.
There are so many former players, Blues specifically, who love this guy.
And that's exactly, like, I have full confidence that he is going to get buy-in.
And people will...
Full confidence.
Absolutely. And if they don't...
You're not going to be here very long.
However, I see a lot of people, or I'm sure people will say, like, yeah, well, like, the Leafs... let's say that they really liked Keefe, and that's fine. I find, though, that there was some, like, pity in that. Like, there was a big article that CJ wrote on The Athletic about John Tavares, and he's looking back on it, because he's at the World Championships right now, and CJ's there, and he asked him about it. And, like, and he's like, yeah, you know, we got to wear that and everything. But, like, like that he got fired and, oh, it was really great. No, he was really awesome. He was actually really great. Like I feel like a lot of the praise for Keefe is framed in that way. With Berube, like Jake Allen was like, I want to play for this guy one more time before I retire. I miss him. Like I want to play with him again. And this is a guy who got benched in that season, by the way.
Yeah.
Like
we're talking about the guy that lost his spot.
He lost his job to Jordan Binnington in that season. And
notably calm.
Yeah.
Jordan Binnington.
Oh, and you know what's great too is, remember when Jordan Binnington was acting out? Craig Berube went, it's got to fucking stop. Like, it's got to stop. Just play goal.
I can't wait for someone on the Leafs to act out like that. And Craig Berube is just to be like, it's got to stop.
Yeah.
And they're going to be like, are you going to walk that back? He's like, absolutely not.
That was the second that Keefe walked those comments back.
It was over.
I thought it's like, you might as well just, because clearly he went, I can't believe you said that. He
so mean.
And then
I'm telling mom.
Like, do you remember in the Amazon documentary, as much as the Leafs tried to nip and tuck their way around showing anything real in that documentary, there was a time where Keefe went out in the media and said something along the lines of like, our star players, like, are not doing something correctly, or there's not enough urgency. And then he had to go, and we saw it, like, apologize.
Ridiculous.
No, he had to have Joe Thornton be the conduit to tell him that didn't go great among the top guys in the locker room. And then he had to pull Austin Matthews aside and have like a kind of awkward conversation with him about how he didn't really mean it, or it came out wrong or something. Like, there's nothing of that. Craig Berube's gonna be like, you guys aren't playing fucking well. I believe in you, but play better. And we won't have these conversations.
Hey, we've got great players, and they're not good enough right now. Like what Jim Montgomery did. Pasta's got to step up.
Yeah, he's going to be like, can you... I think I even tweeted about this. I'm like, can you imagine if Keefe... And again, I know he was handcuffed, and I love Sheldon Keefe as a human being, and there are a lot of great things he does as coaches. He does as a coach. However, if Sheldon Keefe had the stones to go out and say, Mitch needs to be better...
Man, Rocket security would be parked outside his house.
With like they'd Tanya Harding him before the game, but I'm saying, and then...
Good luck doing that with Craig Berube, by the way.
No, I'm going to say, but like, if that is the situation, then maybe that player should go. This is what we're talking about.
Right, so I think the scenario here for me is he is the guy to get everyone, because it seems like there's factions of the dressing room and cliques in the dressing room, and guys clearly aren't pulling on the same rope as it pertains to the power play. Like, that much is like really obvious. I think he is a fantastic hire in that sense. But I think if he's going to come in and say, oh, we're going with whatever his system is, then we're in deep trouble. Here's where the situation is with the Leafs. So I have a colleague who, was out and about last weekend and saw a Toronto Maple Leaf who maybe is on a multi-year deal. Okay. But just arrived last year. Sitting at the bar with some people. So before he left, he went up to that Toronto Maple Leaf and he said, hey, and keep in mind, this Toronto Maple Leaf is not known for his scoring, but he went, hey, I just want to say, it was a tough way to end the season, but I just want to let you know that we appreciate, all you did to sort of try and motivate and keep things, and you sort of fire up. And that Toronto Maple Leaf said, direct quote, I really appreciate you saying that because it's really tough with those guys sometimes. Holy F! And so that is why Craig Berube is the head coach of the Toronto Maple Leafs. And that is why... That guy is so happy that Craig Berube is now the head coach of the Toronto Maple Leafs. And I'll tell you who that player is off. I think you can probably guess who it is, but I can tell you who it is off. But, the fact that needed to be... The fact that off the cuff, that is what was said... To a fan. Is... Okay. It's not like this. It's not like this colleague of mine was out having drinks with them and that slipped out. It's not like you're in a position of like you or I, where like we have relationships with these players. Yeah. They trust us, and they tell us things that would never see the light of day. This is a fan interaction. This is him coming up and say, "Hey, fan, I know it was a tough way to end the season. I just want to say I appreciate all your efforts to try and sort of motivate and change culture and stuff like that." And the guy went, "I really appreciate you saying that." Because it's really tough with these guys sometimes, and that's why I look at the Craig Berube hire, and I go, X's and O's kind of be damned at the moment, in my opinion. And I think they have a good systems guy, Mark Savard, that's going to come over allegedly. Yeah, Dean Chenoth. And Dean Chenoth is very good. Yeah,
Like I feel like
he came from Carolina under Rod Brindamore. Yeah. He's good.
We're gonna start hearing the Dean Chenoweth like in the same way that Spencer Carberry was. You know, like it wouldn't shock me if Dean Chenoweth is a head coach in the next like year or two. But I think, you know, systems be damned, and right now, this is why I want to give Craig Berube sort of like leeway.
Yep.
Or a chance because
absolutely,
because they need him.
Yes, 100%.
You can't have play. That's where the culture is right now.
My reservations are systems and systems
yes.
only. But if he comes in and I'm still seeing a lot of like similar stuff, then not only is that going to tell me that he's focused on
mm-hmm.
what he's really good at, but it also tells me that he can hold himself accountable because he understands, hey, there might be a better system in place, and that's not what my strength is, and I need
mm-hmm.
to focus on what my strength is. And there is nothing more important in a head coach than holding themselves accountable. Because
Absolutely.
if you are not holding yourself accountable, your players do
not
care.
You know who didn't do that, and was their downfall? Mike Babcock.
Oh, 100%.
That was the biggest problem with him.
That was his systems are good.
Yeah, he acted with impunity. And he never had any thought that he was above criticism or accountability, despite preaching it. And that filtered into the locker room, and it poisoned that group.
Yep.
And then they brought in Patrick Marleau and Joe Thornton.
The other thing I didn't realize, but also I think is an added, maybe not like bonus,
mm-hmm.
but a little nuance here.
Okay.
He wore the jersey.
Yeah. And you know what? And
he wore the jersey at a time where that level of effort and non-buy-in would not have been acceptable. Like, that was not going to fly back then.
He played for the Leafs. Yes.
Like, he gets it.
Yeah. I think that as much as that, you know, like Scotty Bowman never played for the Leafs, but if they hired him, he'd do a pretty gosh dang good job.
Right, but I think where I'm going with this is I'm saying, like, it's not about understanding the organization. It's more he understands from a fan base perspective that they're not going to accept
mm-hmm.
a lack of accountability because he's lived that part of it.
I think he also understands. Yeah, like he understands the expectations, and he understands what this fan base needs and is about. And I think he will provide that. Like, at least right off the hop, I think he'll make a conscious effort to set the tone early. Like, I'm looking forward to seeing the conditioning skate on the first day of training camp.
If the NHL is smart, they're doing another behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well, I think they're already in the process of doing something like that. Like, Willie Nylander was getting followed around by cameras.
That's the
Amazon Superstar documentary thing. But they should do another All or Nothing Toronto Maple Leafs Part 2 or whatever. Like, because this will be a very interesting
something like I wish
24/7 was still
teams
alive.
Would pay attention
mm-hmm.
to what they do in Europe and pertaining to the soccer teams.
Mm-hmm.
Because they do different like behind the scenes stuff, and they'll show like Pep Guardiola, who is effectively the Scotty Bowman of soccer,
mm-hmm.
showing tactics. And it's like, okay, if they can do that,
mm-hmm.
so can you. But I think it gives you insight into the reason Jurgen Klopp has people writing him letters as he steps down.
Yeah.
And like, is because they have such a relationship with the fan base.
And the blueprint?
And there just isn't enough of that. Like, the blueprint putting out 1-minute videos is not good enough. There needs to be weekly 20-minute episodes.
That's what the Bruins do.
Yes.
And the thing is...
Well, and guess what? You know who is situated in Boston as well?
Yeah.
FSG.
Yeah. Now, it's... Yeah,
and if you don't think
true.
the Jacobs family and FSG talk, I have a bridge to sell you.
Yeah.
And so, guaranteed, Boston spoke to FSG in some capacity or whatever, and they're looking at what is happening overseas because you got to get with the times.
It's funny how the Red Sox don't do that, though. Maybe it's different with baseball. I don't know, but
it's a little different because you got 162 games.
Yeah,
it's
every day.
Grind.
You're every day. Yeah, but it's and like the blueprint is good when they because they do extended episodes and they're good. They only do like 80 a year or whatever. But
exactly. Literally, they do it monthly. It's got to be know, weekly.
And this goes back to Leafs PR. It's like you're never gonna see a single anything negative towards that. And look, that's their job. I get it, But there are other teams that are able to sort of lift the curtain a little bit and at least show something that resembles being real. Everything that
I'll never forget that there's like a Pep quote or Pep like clip where he like walks in the dressing room and goes, "Sit down and shut the fuck up. I have something to say." And it's like, okay.
Well, it's like Bruce Boudreau walking into that room and dropping 30 F-bombs in like 90 seconds. You know?
God bless him.
Like he should be he should. Why have they not hired him already?
I know.
He should be the eye in the sky. Like, anyway.
A consultant.
Any last words on Craig Berube before we end?
No, I think that's. Yeah. I think it's probably the best guy that was
available,
quote unquote available. Yeah,
because Brynmore was not available. He signed immediately after they lost.
Yes.
So that was the only reservation. Is like they signed them before the Hurricanes lost, and I go, oh boy, that might be able to wrap up, and then he signed a deal immediately.
Yeah, I think Dean Evison probably ends up in Seattle.
I can see that, and that'd be a great fit.
Yep, and I think a lot of people. There's a name that I feel like a lot of people have kind of forgotten about, but is gonna heat up over the next.
He's not reinstated.
Nope. Oh. Jeremy Colleton.
Didn't he just get fired by Bakersfield?
First of all, no.
On the Canucks. He get fired by Abbotsford?
Nope.
Okay.
Nope. Try again. So
That's where he is, isn't he?
He is in Abbotsford, but his contract is up.
Oh.
And he turned down an extension. Oh. I'm not going to get into why he turned down the extension.
He wants to go back to the NHL.
Yes, but usually what they'll do is they'll sign with the opportunity to take an NHL job should it become available.
Yeah, but that's not happening. The guy just won the Jack Adams in front of him.
So it doesn't have to be that one.
Oh, yeah, okay.
It could be other ones. So he is not re-signing in Abbotsford, to my knowledge. I expect...
Where do you think he's gone?
And I've heard rumblings that he's interviewed for head coaching jobs and assistant coaching jobs at the NHL level. So I'm kind of waiting to see...
Where do you think he'll go?
I have no idea right now because technically he's still employed by the Abbotsford Canucks.
I'm just trying to think like what other teams are open.
So San Jose...
Yeah, I think he'd be good in San Jose.
He could be an assistant in Seattle. Jeremy is another really good systems guy.
Yeah.
Really good systems guy. Winnipeg is open.
Yeah, but that's apparently Scott Arniel.
Oh, I think it's a mistake to have a first-time coach in there right now, but fair enough.
That's what Elliot Friedman reported.
Yeah, like I think there's going to be assistant coaching jobs available. There always are. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, like I think that name is a name we're going to hear a little bit more of. And I think it's well deserved. I mean, if you look at what he did in Abbotsford, like
before we go though, like you know what really surprised me is you don't think it would be that way based on who this person is and how they was that there's a good contingent of Seattle players who went to management and said we will not play another game for Dave Haxtell. What the hell?
There was?
Yeah. Huh. That's why he got fired. In the exit interviews, they all said we do not want to play for this guy anymore.
Interesting.
We will not play for him anymore. That really surprised me because I look at Dave Haxtell.
I have a ton of time for him.
Yeah. He doesn't seem like well, first of all, he got them to the playoffs in their second year. They won a round. They beat the defending cup champs. You know?
Yeah.
Like they did what the Leafs had tried for 7 years to do in their second year of existence with the roster that was being led in scoring by Vince Dunn.
Jesus.
You know? And, but like it just surprised me. Like what happened this year in Seattle?
Yeah,
did it all just come crumbling down? I don't know. But that Seattle job is very intriguing to me because that's a team that has a ton of money and a ton of capital. Like when it comes to draft, cap space, prospects, otherwise, could be very interesting. Anyway, that's the end of the show. You can subscribe to us on YouTube, Twitch, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, pretty much any podcatcher under the sun. And also, please subscribe to Jumpstart or donate to Jumpstart, our charity of choice. Jumpstart helps economically disadvantaged kids play team sports, which is a cause that's very, very near and dear to Rachel and I's hearts. The links for all of any donation stuff will be in the description of this episode. And anything you want to leave us with before we head out, Rachel?
Nope. I got absolutely nothing for you.
Okie doke. All right. Well, on that note, we will see you next week. Peace.